screen. We still have Nancy on the line. At least I hope we do. And here's the deal. So Nancy's folks died, and was it your mom or dad, Nancy?
It was my mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. Got it.
My husband. Yeah, my husband's mother.
Got it. And the trustee of their trust has sold. There were various bank accounts, property, this, that, and the other thing. Plus, we're closing on the house this week, and that will wrap up all the bills to be paid. They died in April. So between April and now, that's 6 months, right? So from the 4th to the 10th,
Right.
roughly 6 months. So there was time to publish the notice to unknown creditors. Do you know if that happened? The notice in the paper?
I have no idea. We're kind of been kept in the dark. We don't have anything showing what's come in, gone out. Nothing. In little increments, she stopped over and gave portions of money she's received, like back from the cable company, or she has split up what was made on the estate sale, which we have no proof of was actually made. She gave us what she told us to be our share, or my husband's share.
Right.
And we don't. My husband knows of some of the monies that were there shortly around her death, because his mother talked to us about some of this stuff.
Right.
And but we don't know for sure everything.
Right.
We know what's left in the checking that I know she's paid some bills
Right.
with it since then.
All right. So let's assume.
So
let's assume. Sure. Yeah. See, the nice thing about the trust, right? Nice thing about the trust is that you can, without going to probate, right? Without all that, you can administer an estate. The problem is the way that this is being done is like the worst of all possible worlds. And it's the worst because maybe she's being completely open, honest, and above board. Okay. Maybe she is, but you have no way of knowing that. Whereas if she had followed the rules for administration of trusts, because like if she was represented by an attorney, perhaps, right, then what would have happened is you'd have gotten a copy of the trust, of the portion of the trust, not the whole thing, but the portion of the trust that related to your husband. You'd have also gotten an inventory saying, look, this is what we've got. This bank account, that bank account, personal property, whatever. Then, and you might not have gotten an accounting just yet. You certainly wouldn't have gotten a distribution, I wouldn't think. But you might have gotten you wouldn't have gotten the accounting yet, but you would have gotten the inventory, okay? And piecemealing it like this just raises confusion. I mean, it's a bad thing. Yeah. So what should have happened, and if she's doing it by herself, the chances are that she did not file the 4-month. You got to publish it 4 months later to find out unknown creditors. Plus, you don't know if she got all the creditors. You don't know that either. And then the fact that she's doling out the money bit by bit, you don't do that. What you do is you pull all the money together, you pay the bills out of it, then you give every member an accounting. You say, after the inventory, then you say, I sold the house, I said it was 200,000. I sold it for 250. I sold it for 150, whatever. There was this much money in this bank account. There was that much money in that bank account. And you can give a summary of that. But as trustee, if the beneficiaries, if your husband says, oh, I thought there was more money in that bank account, show me the records. She has to give you the records. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's how this works. And like with if she had an estate sale person do this, if she conducted the estate sale, well, you got to go on whatever she told you. Beg pardon?
Yeah.
But if she had
hired somebody that did the estate, that handled the estate sale and the sale of the house.
Well, then
an all-in-one.
Okay, fine. Well, then
this is like my husband will have questions extra questions, and it's very vague, doesn't get answered. It's like there's 4 siblings, and it's 3 against 1, 3 against him. Like she has had the one brother that lives out of state help her through this when in the trust it said if she was unable to perform the duties, that it was to be my husband to handle it. Well, that never happened, and he's just been helping her through this. But they're so secretive, and we just don't know.
Well, okay, but you see, part of the reason it feels secretive is because you've been getting dribbles and drabs of information. Okay, you shouldn't have gotten any information. Right. What should have happened was, here's a copy of the trust. Here's a copy of the assets that I know about. Hang on, right? And when it comes time to divvy up, I'll give you an accounting. Okay, so on the one hand, it's like, well, we're not going to tell you what's going on. Well, fair enough, actually, because it's their job, the trustee's job, right, to manage all this stuff. So you don't get a say on whether the teapot should have gone for $5 or $10. But she opened the door to that by saying, oh, I had a yard sale, whatever, and here's how much money I got from it. Here's your 50 cents. And it's like, what? Well, what about and here's your share from this account or that account, whatever. It's not how it's done. You start with the inventory, okay? Here's what there was. And then after you've done all the transactions, you report those transactions, okay? The whole reason we do the trust and things like this is you have centralized control, right? So we all know where to point the finger, right? And you don't do it like this dribble and drab stuff. And if you are going to do that, which sometimes clients do that, right? They're like, hey, I got this money. I want to get it out. Then we say, and this is what I was saying before in the previous segment. Then what we do is we say, okay, here's the inventory. Here's the accounting thus far. Here's what I did thus far. We put that in writing. Now, if I'm going to give this to Nancy's husband has to sign off saying, I agree with that inventory. I agree that these are the amounts that were in those accounts, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to get $10 now. Okay. You have all the beneficiaries sign that before you give them the $10. And it's like, well, that's nonsense. Why would I do that? Because on these dribs and drabs. Well, you wouldn't, which is why you hold off until you've sold the house, and then you divide it all up at once and you say, here's what's going on. Now, at that point, if you want to complain and say, look, there was more money in those accounts, then you can demand and say, hey, I want to see the bank account. Before I sign off on this, I want to see the bank accounts. I want to see the closing statement. I want to see the substantiation from the yard sale, right? Estate sale. I want to see all that stuff before I sign off on this. Sister has to produce that. The trustee has to produce that backup information. Okay. And then everybody knows what's going on, and it's not a constant back and forth, blah, blah. Do you see? And this idea about waiting till next summer till brother visits from Texas. Last I knew, they had FedEx that goes to Texas. You could FedEx them the check. I think they have wires that go down to Texas, don't they?
Yeah, that's what that's what's going to happen. I think with the closing money, the house money this week, is they'll send that to him. So I don't understand why the waiting till next July, or my husband doesn't understand, to do this. I mean,
it makes no sense.
Rights do we have as far as this? I mean,
well, you see, here's the emotional frosting on the cake. Let's just say that, and it's like, oh, I'm doing all this work to be the trustee, and you're questioning me. You're horrible. And then the other siblings are like, oh yeah, Nancy's husband, what a pain in the ass he is because he's questioning things.
Right.
And it's
where's that?
Yeah. Well, the fact is now you're letting the trustee off the hook for doing what they're supposed to do. And when you do that, see, this is the worst part about it. When you do that, you're creating intergenerational stories about how in your family, it'll be how Auntie Trustee screwed everybody over. In their family, it'll be what a pain in the ass Nancy's husband was, and blah, blah, blah. And now the cousins hate each other, okay? Whereas if you just did it, then you lay everything out, everybody signs off on it, everybody knows what's going on, no problem, you see? And then if somebody wants to piss and moan about it, then you pull out the thing that their parents signed and said, look, this is what was going on. How do you know? Because there it is in writing. And guess what? Your mom or dad signed off on it. So I guess we can all be friends now, right? That's the worst part of this sloppy trust administration. You see, it's not so much that people are stealing money, but they create the suspicion, the appearance of impropriety, and that poisons the next generation. It's just terrible, terrible when that happens.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my take on it.
You know,